By late 1966, the visionary behind the Florida project was fading. Walt Disney lay in a bed at St. Joseph's Hospital, his lungs failing him, but his mind was still racing through the swamps of Central Florida. He spent his final hours staring at the grid of acoustic tiles on the hospital ceiling, pointing out to his brother Roy exactly where the monorail would turn and where Cinderella's castle spires would rise. When Walt passed away on December 15th, 1966, the world mourned a storyteller, but the Disney company faced an existential crisis. The Florida project was a $5 million investment in 27,000 acres of worthless bog with no leader. Most expected the project to die with Walt. Roy Disney, who had been ready to retire, looked at those maps his brother had traced on a ceiling and made a choice. He postponed his retirement and took the mantle. His first order of business, he insisted the project be renamed. It wouldn't be Disney World. It would be Walt Disney World, so everyone would know whose dream they were building. Roy knew he couldn't build a kingdom on imagination alone. He needed engineers who would tame a swamp. He turned to two men who would become the two Joes of Walt Disney World history, Admiral Joe Fowler and General Joe Potter. Joe Potter was a former governor of the Panama Canal Zone. He was an expert in logistics and water management. He was responsible for the boring but vital infrastructure, the canals, the drainage, and the literal foundation of the park. Joe Fowler was a retired Navy admiral who had overseen the construction of Disneyland. Fowler was the can-do man who translated imagineering dreams into steel and concrete. Walt had left behind plenty of DNA for the park. He wanted to avoid the mistakes of Anaheim. While the city of Epcot was set aside as too risky, the Magic Kingdom could now become the focus. Walt's primary contribution to the park's design was the concept of plussing. He wanted a castle that dwarfed Sleeping Beauty Castle and a layout that solved the utilidor problem. The Magic Kingdom was not a simple copy of Disneyland. It was a complete redesign, meant to avoid the mistakes Walt identified in Anaheim. The raised platform design, building the park atop the utilidors, was the ultimate solution to Walt's obsession with maintaining the show and cleanliness. Since Central Florida's high water table prevented digging a true basement, the Imagineers simply brought the ground level up by piling the earth displaced from creating the Seven Seas Lagoon. This created an enormous backstage area beneath the park, allowing for the unseen movement of trash, goods, and most importantly, costumed cast members. Unlike Disneyland, where the monorail was added later, the Magic Kingdom incorporated the monorail and major resorts into the overall transportation plan from day one. Walt saw the monorail not as a ride, but as a legitimate urban transit solution. Disneyland was originally designed in an almost pure hub and spoke layout. It was soon found that this caused congestion at the hub, since everyone needed to go there first in order to move from one land to another. This was eventually solved by adding a ringed walking path around the circumference of the park. But this was designed into the Magic Kingdom from the beginning, along with wider walking paths to increase comfortable park capacity. Monorails and ferry boats would bring people to the Magic Kingdom from the parking lot and their resorts. This further separated the Magic Kingdom from the real world, enhancing immersion into Walt's fantasy. This is, I believe, an underappreciated aspect of the Magic Kingdom's design. The Magic Kingdom's original design relied heavily on the talents of Walt's creative team, WED Enterprises. Mary Blair's influence extended beyond her famous It's a Small World, a key Fantasyland attraction, to the breathtaking Grand Concourse mural in the contemporary resort. Mark Davis's story concepts for classic Disneyland attractions were the blueprints for their Magic Kingdom counterparts, including the humorous vignettes in The Haunted Mansion and Pirates of the Caribbean. Bob Gurr is the quintessential transportation design expert who built Disneyland's monorail. Gurr was tasked with scaling up that system for Walt Disney World. Walt Disney World was built with three initial resorts. First and foremost was the Contemporary Resort, themed to model the future of living. It was designed as an A-frame that the monorail would literally glide through. Next was the Polynesian Village, a veritable South Seas escape. It would be a lush, tropical counterpart to the modern Contemporary, reflecting Walt's love for the Pacific and Hawaii. Lastly was the idea for Fort Wilderness. This envisioned the roughing it in luxury campground with its own recreational activities. We'll learn more about the building and opening of these resorts in future episodes. Not every dream was made real. Roy and the team had a master plan for several other Phase 2 themed resorts along the monorail line that were ultimately left on the cutting room floor. Like the Asian Resort, which was planned for the plot where Disney's Grand Floridian stands today. It was to feature Thai-inspired architecture and a massive central tower. The Persian Resort was to be a circular hotel complex with a giant blue dome, planned for the north side of the monorail loop near the Contemporary. And the Venetian Resort, an Italian-themed city of water with canals and gondolas, which was planned for the shore between the Contemporary and the TTC. It could not be built due to the swampiness of that part of the property. Sadly, the 1973 oil crisis hit just 2 years after the park opened. Tourism plummeted, gas prices skyrocketed, and the massive financial strain of building the Magic Kingdom meant Disney had to pause all Phase 2 expansions. By the time the company recovered, the designs felt dated, and newer concepts, like the Grand Floridian, took their place. Walt's wisdom wasn't just in the drawings. It was in the philosophy of the living blueprint, a project that would never be completed as long as there was imagination left in the world. In future episodes of Walt's Wisdom, we'll look at the construction impossible, how they turned 27,000 acres of muck into the most visited vacation destination on Earth. Like Pollyanna, let's continue to look for the best in people. I am sure we will find it. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and comment. Which of the abandoned resort concepts would you like to have seen?